So with that in mind, why don't we begin with prayer? In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Father, we thank you for the gift of faith that you have given to each of us. We ask that we may receive your Holy Spirit more and more, so that we may grow closer to your Son. We ask for the prayers of all the angels and saints, and especially today, St. Joseph, and also, how can we forget St. Patrick? And all the saints, all those who have gone ahead of us, our mothers and fathers, grandparents, and others who have gone ahead of us in the faith. We ask that with your prayers, we may always give glory to you. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. So, a couple of background things. First of all, as you heard, my name is Father Luke Ferris. I'm the Vicar for Clergy and Pastoral Leaders. Vicar means, if you can't hear, don't be afraid to do this or this as I'm looking around. So, all right, I will try to speak louder and louder, all right? I'm going to pull this even closer. Is that better? Still not as close as it could be. Sorry, my voice is a quiet one, I know that. Most people like it over the phone, but when it's not there, don't be afraid, again, if I start to fade out to mention you can't hear me, okay? Are you doing okay? Right? Okay. So, again, my name is Father Luke Ferris. I'm the Vicar for Clergy and Pastoral Leaders. So Vicar means in the place of, or really what it means, the person that the bishop chose to be in charge of that, okay? So my job then is to oversee all the priests and the pastoral leaders that are in charge of the parishes. I'm on a committee, a personnel committee, that chooses then and makes recommendations to bishop who will be the next priest or pastoral leader for a given parish, all right? And as part of that transition, I'm here tonight. To be frank, we have somebody in mind already for your parish, since we're getting close to the point where we'll announce this. The announcement will be made the first full week of April. I believe that's going to be April 7th or 8th, something around 8th, 9th, okay, thank you. So that's when the announcement will be made, unless something else comes up in the meantime, but that will be the plan, all right? So we do have somebody in mind, but we want to have these listening sessions, first of all, just to make sure this would be the right person for your parish, but also, almost as important and even more important, is to listen to what it is that you like about your parish and what kind of questions, or rather, what kind of things you would like to see improved at your parish. So typically, the evening is divided into 2 half-hour sessions. If we need more time, we can do that. But the first half hour would be my question asking to you, and I'd invite you to come forward to the microphones so everyone can hear you. We'd ask you to talk about things that you think are strengths for your parish. And I have to ask, who's our note taker again? Oh, yes, you are?
The note taker is
Jenny, thank you. Oh, look at that. Holy cow. Okay, very good. Sorry, I didn't even look behind me. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So typically, Jenny, we're not going to ask any names be placed down, okay? We're just going to ask for kind of bullet points. What is the point that the person is making, okay? As best we can. If you don't like what she wrote down, then go talk to her if you're going to be able to see it. So, but what we're trying to do is just get the gist of what you would like. First of all, what you like about your parish, and then the second part is what are things that you see as opportunities, places where you could improve, things you'd like to see in the next pastor or in the parish in general. I'd ask you to try to stay away from using names in particular. Somebody may have somebody in mind when you're speaking. That's fine, but we'd like you to just leave that. We don't want to throw anybody underneath the bus. If you want to, you can complain to me about that. You can throw me under the bus, but if they're not here, we don't want to do that, okay? And ideally, we're trying to put this in a positive kind of place, all right? One thing that is unique about what your parish has experienced is that typically you did not go through this transition as most parishes do, okay? So let me say that briefly. Your pastor changed, right, from Bishop Bob, which was unique in itself, to Father Tim, and that just happened, right, at the beginning of the year. January it was, I believe, right? And that is typically not the time of transition that we work through. We did not have a chance to, usually we invite the staff, which we will. They'll have a date to come in, to come and talk about transition. Typically, we also have the pastor that's leaving and the pastor that's coming have a chance to come to meetings where we talk about transitions and what kinds of things ideally help in these kinds of transitions. And then we also did not have this kind of meeting for yourselves as well, to be able to talk about what it is that you liked about Father or Bishop Bob and what are things maybe you'd like to see in the new pastor, okay? So those things did not happen. And in some ways, I will fault myself for that, in as much as we thought that, okay, this will go pretty easily. Well, the big question that a lot of people have, and I don't have any more of an answer than you have with what Father Tim has said. The big question is, why did Father Tim really leave, okay? I know that's on most people's minds, so I will give you the short answer that I have ascertained, in as much as I spent a little more time with him, not a lot, but also was there when after he talked with me, we went and talked with Bishop together as well. So perhaps I have a little more of a feel for what that answer is, but the answer truly is what he wrote to you, and that is he didn't think he was a good fit. And again, first I want to make sure everyone hears this, that he didn't do anything wrong. He's not some priest that's got some difficulty that we had to move along somewhere, okay? That, first of all, we don't do that anymore, right? And secondly, that's not Father Tim. So please don't think that there's something truly that you don't know. As my father used to say, he hates conspiracy theories, and I do too. So please don't start them, right? And come to me if you really think you know something that I should know, right? Or that somehow we should know. That said, again, you're also welcome to call me or email me individually if you'd like to do that. You're welcome to do that if there's something that you really feel you want to share. Please don't do that anonymously. It really doesn't help me. I can't respond. I'll give you a quick example. I was at one parish and people talked about how they were being more welcoming to young parents and families. In fact, the priest encouraged them to bring their young people up front so they could see. I get a letter, no return address, no name, saying afterwards, tell the new pastor he better not do that because I can't watch Mass with kids in front of me and noisy kids on top of it. Okay, so I can't do anything for you, sir or ma'am, right? Whoever you are. Please talk about these. Let's not be afraid to bring things forward. I don't want to get up on a soapbox, but I will tell you that part of our problem in the church, even the sexual abuse problem, is people didn't want to come forward and put themselves, right, and name problems that priests may have had or other people had. We have to learn how to do that, okay? And I don't want to belabor that point, I'm sorry. But we want to, tonight, again, to be able to hear. I wanted to tell you briefly, though, I'm sorry, before we get that. Father Tim, right, is somebody I was frankly surprised by, and yet all the parts of what he was going through, losing his mom, caring for his dad, all these things I think really played into where he was at. Typically, this is not something that a bishop would even allow a priest to do. That you can't leave right now in the middle of the year. There are instances, so his personal circumstances, and I don't mind saying, also because he's a Norbertine, bishop doesn't have the same kind of obedience in that sense. And again, I don't want to sound like he's disobedient. I'm just saying that that's part of what goes on. If he talks to his abbot agrees, and we've talked with him and tried to work through things, we're basically in a place where the bishop is not in a place where he can say, you have to do this out of obedience to continue, etc. So I don't want to belabor that. I just want you to know that that's all part of the mix in this instance, okay? What I am happy for on a positive line is that Father Jim Feely, who is here tonight with us, has said yes. Father Jim has said yes to come and take care of this transition time, which can be very important. These 4 months help us to be able, in some ways, to let go of what Father Tim maybe was trying to do and who he was, and slowly move in to prepare yourselves for somebody new. Right? And that somebody new you'll know in really a little less than a month's time, okay? But we're happy to have him here. I think it helps many times for people just to take some time to see what's happened, to be able to talk. And I know Father Jim's done quite a bit of that, to be able to listening, working with staff as well, to be able to kind of just hear and navigate the waters to the next pastor. Okay. So that said, are there any immediate questions that you want to ask me? I'm happy to take them now. If there's any immediate question. Sometimes, again, I tried to explain the process, kind of where my role is. We're okay? Feel free if you've got one. And there you go. Thanks. All right, so here we go. We can play these games of trying to narrow down who the person's going to be. Is he somebody that currently has a parish that's smaller than 500 units or whatever? No, he asked, if you didn't hear that, is the next one going to be a diocesan priest? Okay. I think I can safely say yes to that one because it doesn't narrow it down too much. Okay. So the one that right now we foresee, and again, nothing happens till Bishop comes back at the end of the month. Okay. By the way, he's in Rome right now talking with the Pope. He does his ad limina visit every 5 to 8 years, and so that's where he is this week. So nothing's finalized till he comes back, okay? We have a proposal. He knows what that is, but he will wait. But the person we have in mind would be a diocesan priest, all right? And I'm giving you a little insider information there, okay? So, but fair enough, okay? Any other question? Yes, please. So typically our process in these cases, I'm not going to answer that directly, but I will answer it in general, that our priests are told, we talk to them. This is the month where they get the phone calls, and we talk about what we have, what we're thinking of. That is our personnel committee, what Bishop's thinking about, and Bishop will oftentimes have conversations too as well with them if necessary. So yes, they typically are going to hear that, so they'll know, yes. Mm-hmm. I will tell you also that, this is a place that a number of people will come. I will tell you I had several priests contact me and say they'd be happy to come here, okay? So it's not like you guys have a scarlet letter or something now, It's a beautiful parish, and any of our priests would love to be here, really. Yes. So, any other question? That's fair. You guys are poking around the edges, so go ahead. Yeah. Yep. He's asking about the school. Yes. Mm-hmm. So Bishop is very clear with our priests, and he said, if you don't want to be at a parish with a school, please let me know. I won't put you there. I don't want you there if you don't want to be where there's a school. So yes, that's one of the important factors that the bishop takes into consideration for whoever it might be. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Fair question. Yeah, we're going to have to ask people to come to the mics so we can. Or the other thing we can do is grab the portable one and take that one around. Sometimes that encourages questions, just so people don't have to come and stand in front of it. I'll do the running. I'll do the running. I have no problem with that. It gives me a little chance to interact sometimes too as well. I probably should have asked for that. Okay, if you want. Is it wireless though or no?
Yep.
Oh, this one is, yeah, but not that one. No, don't worry about it. Yeah, we should be okay. Any more preliminary questions then? Okay, so the first half is this, and you can come up to a microphone if you really want to, but otherwise this first part will be questions about what do you like about your parish? What are the strengths of your parish that you feel that you have here? Good.
I like, that's all now. I like the fact that we're not the same. We've got some very diverse people in the parish, and we all like to be listened to, as we all do. So, we're not all this way or that way or want to be involved, or we're getting older though, but we need younger people. But just we're very diverse, and that's why I think people have said we're a difficult parish to work with, because there's a lot of us different in views.
Yeah. No, that's a plus. We should really have, our Pope talks about, in some ways figuratively, a big tent. This is a hospital where anybody should be taken care of, hospital for sinners, as he would point out. So there should be a variety of us, right? So that's a nice strength. Mm-hmm. What else?
I've always felt so welcome, and Razum, we've been here far too long. No, not too long. I want to live long.
I think when I asked you, you said forever.
Yeah,
is what
I said
you said
forever. Well, okay. Almost. Everyone, it's a good, friendly community. And we are open to all kinds of families, different structured families, and different hurts that people have, and we accept them and always have. And I do hope that that's what continues, the openness and caring and healing that we have I feel we have in our parish.
So one of the top 3 things that people look for when they're looking for a parish is a welcoming environment. Right? And that is something that each of you can provide, just saying hello to people and whatnot. When I moved up to where I'm from, a little town, Coleman, Wisconsin, north of 50 miles north of here, we could have gone to church. We were equidistant to 2 different churches, and my 2 brothers threw up at Mass. One of the first times we were there at the church, I still remember, I can see it, I won't describe it, but they came, and the way that the ushers and the other people took care of my mother and my 2 brothers, right? My mom said, "This is our parish," because she saw the way they handled the barf, literally. Really. That's what it is. And that's what people are going to look for. Can you handle my junk? See? Because we all have some, right? So, and that's important for you, every place that we are, any place, whether you're an usher or you're just in the pews and somebody's in front of you saying hello, that kind of thing, very important, especially if you haven't seen, hey, I don't know, are you new here? A question simple, like, maybe they're not. But, and that's important out of the pastor too. Pastor needs to keep that going.
I have 2 comments. One, I think that resurrection, my husband's been here since 74, and I've been here a lot after that, but we've always had stability. We've had long-term pastors, so people get used to them. They're very comfortable with them. They're part of their lives. That's it. You feel like they baptize your children. They married our son. They baptized our grandchildren, things like that. I think that's very important. And I think the other thing is that we are a very lay-involved parish, and I think it's very important that we keep being lay-involved and have a role in, because Mass and liturgy is not for just the priest, it's for all of us, and it's that the laity needs to be involved if the parish is going to thrive. And I think that Resurrection does that well, and I hope it continues to do that well and grows in doing that well.
Mm-hmm. So just one comment on the long-time pastors you've had. Typically at a bigger parish like this, that's going to be more the norm. But you will see, as if you haven't noticed already, that we have more movement at the smaller places. Our international priests typically come for 5 years. That's their limit, and they're going to move. Typically now, Bishop Ricken has done 6-year terms that can be renewed for 6 years, so it's 12 years max, which is pretty much the standard that the bishops in the United States do now, okay? So, but it's good that we hear that strength. And then laity is important. In many ways, we need more lay leadership all the time.
I wanted to build on what she said, because what I see in Resurrection is a host of leaders and potential leaders. And because of that, I think we have a range of ways to be involved in this parish, all kinds of activities. It's a strength of Resurrection. A person who wants to spiritually grow has many ways to do that.
There you go. It's a tag team here between the two.
I just wanted to second that, or actually just kind of continue with that thought. I mean, this is our parish. It's not Father's parish, the pastor's parish. It's our parish.
Yeah. So, and it's a good point sometimes that we remind our priests that when you go to a place, you are you may want to make some changes, but if you do something permanent, you're going to leave, and you are all left after that. So hopefully you've got a pastor that recognizes that kind of thing. So
we've got a terrific deacon.
There you go.
Don Robson.
Did you notice how he didn't use any names, right? He didn't use any names. So, but usually when it comes to positive things, if you want to slip a name in, no one's gonna. But you can talk about. But that's important. Deacons' roles are very important. Actually, it can be a big help. Okay.
I'm going to keep building on what we've been hearing, but I think that our community responds exceptionally well to a person who believes, understands, and practices servant leadership. I worked for a group of sisters most of my life, and one very wise sister once said that she was an administrator, and I was a department manager, and I was with a group of them, and she said, "I will tell you what, you tell me how." And it's something that I never forgotten, and I think that we have a lot of people here. It's already been said that we have a lot of people who know how. So we do need good leadership, and I trust we'll have that.
Okay, very good. You know, that idea of servant leader is really the ideal, one of the things that Bishop sees, and that we are doing more and more with priests, but also with lay people. Want to call forth more leaders, and in some cases we need to train our priests even how to lead on certain things, and this is not always easy. We have leaders that avoid conflict, for example, and that's usually not a healthy trait, and so we need to be able to deal with that, all of us, and put things on the table. What else? Other positives about your parish?
As much as people come and say that they feel welcome here and we welcome them in, we also try to welcome in the new priest when they come. And we really want them to be part of us. So we want them to come to our things, like when we have a spaghetti dinner, or we have a meeting or religious ed program, or whatever we might be doing, donuts. We would love for them to walk through and talk with us and let us get to know them. I think that's important.
Okay. So a lot of things going on socially, and we want, we have to be careful. We're getting into needs again, but that's a strength at least, yeah, socially. Yep. What's happening there?
And I just thought of this as Karen was talking.
Sure.
Because I think of the size of the parish, we have the advantage of probably way better than average music, choirs and stuff like that to enhance the worship.
So, and that's the number 2 out of the top 3 things that that people are looking for when they come for Mass is they want good music. And so that I commend you for that, and I encourage you to continue to be able to, invest in that. It is well worth your while. And it's also a great way to be able to get young people involved in your parish too as well. So, what else? Okay.
We do not have a traditional religion program for public school students. We have an intergenerational program, and I think that focus on the adult enrichment is in that program, as well as Health and Wellness Committee and the Adult Enrichment Committee, Stewardship Committee. All of those committees also try and do a lot of adult enrichment, and that's just a real positive.
So that's really important. I don't know if you know the statistics, but I'll get into those in the next part about parent involvement. But that's very important, and I'll save my thoughts on that. Remind me, but that's important that we find a way to get parents involved. It's not just in RE or at the school, but also on Sundays too.
I don't think anybody brought this up either, but our Social Justice Committee has been very active, and it helps the rest of us reach out, and I think that's needed.
Yep. So social justice is one of those places where we have always led as a church, a place where we're taking care of people. You can say what you would like about Melinda Gates, married to Bill Gates, right? But the reason why the Gates Foundation gives to the Catholic Church, and again, some people can be critical of them in some of the ways they give, but in general they give, and they give a lot, is because, as Melinda Gates points out, a Catholic herself, she said, the Catholic Church is everywhere in the world when I go to a poor neighborhood, she says. When I go to the worst neighborhoods, the Catholic Church is there, so we'll always give to the Catholic Church, she pointed out. And that's where we should be too as well, with social justice and taking care of the poor. What else? Other strengths that you have? Yes? Okay. I teased Emily a little bit because I work with her mom, and I told her that I'm going to call her on her, so don't be afraid. You're probably one of the younger people here, so go ahead.
Yeah, and some of it has already been touched on. I feel like every time now I'm in college, so when I come back for break and on the weekends to come to church, one thing that I've always liked is the welcoming at the door of like our greeters and parish staff waiting to welcome everyone, and then like when we have gatherings after church in the gathering area with coffee and donuts, not necessarily the food being the benefit, but the again, parish staff walking around and talking to everyone as they're sitting, and sitting with familiar faces, but also some Sundays meeting new people and talking to new people and getting to know everyone in the church kind of is a benefit to the community aspect.
Right. Well said, thank you. And that's important, whether we're younger or a little more gray-haired like myself. We would like people to know who we are to some extent, okay? And it doesn't have to be necessarily the name, but we know that you're part of the parish, or if we know something about somebody that they've done, especially young people, to be able to come up to them and congratulate them or recognize them. That's very important, especially for young people to know that we care about who they are, and to some extent we want to know them. So, what else? Any other strengths? We've covered a lot. I didn't hear too much about the school. Does anybody want to say anything about that at all? Strength about the school, good, bad? Sorry, I was looking at you because you mentioned something about the school. So, can I give you the microphone?
I'm happy to talk about the school. We've had 3 children go to school here, and actually I now work for Grace, so I'm very thrilled to be a part of it.
Full disclosure. Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And also I'm your finance chair, so we're all good here.
Okay.
So I view the school as a positive. I think the bishop does as well. I think the bishop sees the school as a opportunity to
Yes.
build lifelong disciples.
So thank you, and oh, good. There's one. Go ahead. She's going to use the microphone.
I have the honor and privilege of being at a lot of funerals and hearing during the week how the staff goes to the hospital ministry and how we have outreach to those in nursing homes, so that end of life and those who aren't with us, but they still are, that outreach to those who cannot physically be here, and then the bereavement, that whole compassionate ministry is very strong here.
Great. Very good point. No, that we need to take care of people, and that sometimes is going to be a judge that people make on us. In the wrong spot. I'm going to mention something more about the school, but not just yet. Go ahead.
I'm a charter member,
Okay.
and through the years, I saw this parish grow. But the best of every was when I was in desperate need and didn't know where to turn to, I came to the parish, and our nurse did so much for me and she just helped me through some really tough times. And I think she needs a hand.
Okay. Nurses are a very important part. In fact, we now have a priest nurse. Her job is to take care of our priests. And if you know single men, that's not an easy job to do, right? But it is important that we have that, and it's neat. That's a strength that your parish has. Just a little plug on, go ahead. Yep. I was going to plug the school, but go ahead.
I'll say in the last year, I've really noticed the generations. The attendance has grown a lot, and I don't know if that has to do with removing the rather big fee that a lot of young families might not be able to afford. But we've been coming for years, and now you can't even hold it out in the gathering area. It has to be in church this last year, and I think that's awesome.
Okay, good. It's that generations movement that's important, yeah. Any other positives? Yes. And then we're just about at a half hour of listening, so go ahead.
We have and we really need to continue good liturgy. And we've been blessed through several recent pastors that have really made the Sunday an important day for those who are really involved and those who just come on Sunday.
Yes. And I will say that's the third of the three most important things is a good homily, right? And again, without anybody in mind here, I would just encourage you to give feedback to your priest, okay, whoever that is. And because I was just joking with Father Jim that, I was at a mass and the deacon, or in this case, there was a second priest and he preached the homily, but, I had somebody after mass say, "Nice homily, Father," right? Well, right. And again, I would come back and say, so this person clearly didn't remember that I didn't give the homily that day. That was just a throwaway comment, you see. So I always will challenge people, what did you like about it, you see? And so you want to say something about that, and I'll get to your point. And then the second part of that is, if you didn't understand some part, or you couldn't hear them, right, don't be afraid to point that out. We need, again, to be nice but direct about things. Father, I didn't understand the point you were trying to say about this. Or, Father, you didn't really land the plane. I thought you were going to end a couple times, and it never quite got down, you see. Now, again, that's kind of hard, but I'm telling you, there's probably other people thinking it, and so you need to nicely find a way to say that. And again, the liturgy is more than just the homily, but I will tell you on those three things, welcoming, music, and the homily, that's what people mostly notice is what you've said. But how they handle other things at Mass is very important too as well, yes. In the way their prayerful presence, their insights to other parts of the liturgy too. Is that what you wanted to say? Okay, all right. So, yes. And then this will be our last one, and we'll move to the...
I want to say thank you, Father Jim, for sharing and coming and saving us. Hello?
Yes.
Again, I want to thank you, Father Jim, for coming and sharing your life again with us. And we truly appreciated it very, very much.
It's good. It makes me feel good, too. I was able to talk him out of retirement. You see, there you go. So, he's going to empty his wallet. Yeah, exactly. Paying for these things, yeah. So why don't we move to now opportunities, and I'm going to throw one out just with the school in mind because I think it's always an important aspect, and I'm going to throw this out as a challenge, okay, too as well. And perhaps your parish does better in this, but do you know what the statistics are for those who go to RE or generations? What percentage of those people, parents, that is, families, come to Sunday Mass nationally? So I hope your parish is better than this. But nationally, the percentage of people that bring their kids to RE and then come to Mass regularly, not every Sunday, but regularly, like at least twice a month, 2%. That's what the national standard is, 2%. And that's CARA. If you want to look it up, I can show you the stat, okay, done out of Georgetown, 2%. All right. So do you know what the percentage is of people who send their kids to Catholic school and then come on Sunday Mass regularly? 28%. Still too low, right? But you can see a lot better than 2%. And again, I'm not trying to make a judgment, but we have great opportunities there. As Bishop says, this is our own back door. They're right here. They're already bringing their kids, and we need to find a way to get them more involved. Now, some of the things, that perhaps you do already, such as a family mass, as they'll call it, or a children's mass once a month, those are ways of bringing them there. But I'm telling you, that's an opportunity, you see. It's a great opportunity that we have to have people come regularly. Again, I'm hoping your parish is higher than that, but unfortunately, that's where the numbers are. So what other opportunities, perhaps, do you see, or would you like to want the new pastor to know or provide? It's always tough. We need someone who starts it, and then everybody kind of builds off of that, usually.
I think that it would be good if the new pastor was well aware that this is a stewardship parish of sharing and faith and, prayer, faith and sharing, because that has been so foundational over the years, and that's the strength. And it isn't just money. We know that. That is included because that's sharing, but the sharing can also be hospitality, but also the whole concept of we really realize that we are stewards of God's gracious gifts.
So there's an opportunity with stewardship. I will tell you that nationally, not everybody understands that word, and even locally. So I know that Bishop Monod has always been at the forefront of this, so you may understand that, but there's a lot of young adults that don't get that. I'm talking even young parents that don't quite understand that term. So he probably needs to use a word as well as stewardship, but that's a great opportunity, yeah, definitely, to keep building. Oh, I know. People who hear it often get it, but oftentimes new people have a hard time understanding. They just think it's about money, unfortunately. Was there another one back here? Opportunity? Okay. We had one somewhere. There's somebody else maybe there too.
I think this presents an opportunity for us to do further long-range planning and look to the future of our parish, because if you just stay static, you're going to go backwards.
Right. So, I don't know, have you, I'm going to look to staff to answer this. Have you started the parish mission planning at all yet? You have? Okay, good. Okay, so that's one of the things that, thank you for, one of the things that the diocese wants every parish to go through. So this is this start of long-range planning. So there's a wonderful opportunity. Do you want to add something to that? Go ahead.
So we have started the work with the
And
parish
why don't
mission.
you say your name so everybody knows who this is? Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Mary Burrich, and I'm one of the trustees of the parish. Oh, and I didn't stand up, but when I do, I'm not much taller than when I'm sitting down. We have started the parish mission planning. We did that this past summer. What I would tell you is there was some initial communication. We still have a lot of opportunity.
Okay.
So I think our four main pillars were created last summer, but the plans to go with those still need to be further developed.
Okay. So that's a great opportunity, especially people who like to do that kind of strategic planning for the next 3-5 years. That's a great opportunity for people to give their input, and it'll also be a wonderful opportunity for the next pastor to be able to be involved in that too as well. So, is there somebody else over here? Okay.
I think that this gives us the opportunity to look at the structure of the parish and the staff. And just historically, I was here for like 8.5 years, then went to Indiana for 22 years, where we had a parish administrator who was, did all the day-to-day stuff. And I think that's really important, and I think that would be so helpful to a pastor here. And so I think we should kind of look at this as an opportunity maybe to go to that model.
So looking at staff, I don't know if you're familiar with Amazing Parish, for example. It's one of several different groups, but one of the things they do is they talk about the priest having, or the pastor having a pastoral leadership team, and it includes not just staff, but also some people from the congregation too as well, and that kind of leadership team can really help, and that's different from a pastoral council. So this is the kind of thing that can be discussed and talked about. That kind of structure that's important that they have to take a look at that. Don't be surprised, as some of you will know, whenever there's a change in leadership, that you may see some change in staff. And it doesn't always mean the new guy is getting rid of them, but in many cases it's because that person has already chosen, well, you know what, maybe it's time for me to leave at this point. They see this as a transition point too as well. So I know that, having done it in different ways. I was a principal before I became a priest, and these kinds of things happen. Somebody's already made up their mind before you've even stepped in the door as the new person, and that's okay. So I appreciate you bringing up that topic, because it is an opportunity in some ways for if people want to move along, maybe they will, but it's an opportunity for restructuring and doing some different things as well. What else? Other needs, opportunities? Thanks.
Seems to me there's so many negative things going on in the Catholic Church right now that during Mass, and we're losing so many people to fast food churches, if you ask me, during Mass, if we could be explained somehow what's really going on deeper than what, like when the priest holds his hands over the host and the Holy Spirit coming down. I don't think most people even understand what's going on there. And also, we need another Bishop Sheen or somebody like that that's going to tell the world what the Catholic Church really has done. Mayo Clinic, all the colleges, all the hospitals. It's the Catholic Church that has done all these things. And them are all really, really positive things. But we're in such a negative position right now. I think everybody is feeling sorry for themselves. And we shouldn't be. But we should be very proud of what we are.
Yeah.
Because of our ancestors.
Right. So let me just add a little bit on that, and please, I want to hear that. And that is, so talking about the Mass is important. We also want to remember there are people, and they figure almost every Sunday, 20% of the people are non-Catholic actually in your pews. So they have typically not heard even some basic things, and that they can help us go a little deeper. Just taking a moment, for example, one of the things one of the priests is doing, just a moment before Mass to imagine God the Father looking down upon us, okay, and just receiving His presence, okay. These kinds of simple moments can really help people, and so that kind of understanding then of what the Mass is can really help. The other thing I want to point out is that we have a wonderful opportunity, as our bishop has pointed out, is that, look, we don't like it, but we've been purified, okay? We've had a lot that's gone through our church, and yet now we're in a place where perhaps, and we do have this, other institutions coming to us asking us, okay, what did you do about this problem of sexual abuse? Because it's in other places, at universities, there's just, doctors, things that have come out on different people, and you're just like, wow, this is, unfortunately, there you go. There's a lot there, unfortunately. So we want to be able to, in some ways, if we can clean our house well, then we will be able to help people a lot in this area too as well. Yep. Go ahead.
Joe Murphy, just all due respect, Father Tim spent 3 Sundays speaking about the Mass at every point.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay. So was that too much, do you think?
No.
Okay. So again, we want to again have somebody that can help us unpack some of that. So okay, thank you.
Just a quick comment about the Mass parts. It's one thing we all really appreciate with Father Tim is that he didn't always follow the exact guidelines for what you say but it brought it to us. At a funeral for a lady who was with our Parish ministry, it was there on the altar for us, and he made it very personal. I know we're not supposed to use names, but I thought that was a good one.
You could just say, so the way to phrase that is, there's an opportunity for the priests to continue to do these kinds of things. You see? There we go. So.
I think during every November we take a census, so to say, what percentage of our parishioners show up. I think it was something like 24%, am I correct at that? Our opportunity is to put more people in this church. Now, one priest can't do it. We have 1,600 families, something like that. So we as Catholics have to be Catholic. We have to invite these that aren't people that are maybe fallen away, people that are lukewarm Catholics. Show them that we are Christians. Invite them to Mass, invite them to the church picnic, whatever it has to do. But if we can slowly draw them back to Christ and we can start filling this place up. And a lot of our problems will be alleviated if we can do that. So we've got to be Christians. We got to do what we should be doing best.
And so there we need a certain amount of faith in this area. And I'll just give a little personal witness because I think it helps people. So I have a brother who's a year older than I am. We've always been very close. Steve is his name, right? When for the first 40 years of his life, he would always argue with me about religion. He didn't think it was worthwhile. He couldn't understand this or that about the church, etc. So he gets married later in life, right? And they have a son, and he calls me and says, "You're going to be the godfather, right?" I'm like, "You want this?" He's like, "Yeah. When I saw my son, I get it now. There's something more than me here, you see. Something more than what I think, you see." We need these kinds of witnesses, okay, for people to hear. You can share yours. In fact, I'm sorry, I don't want to push a program, but there's an opportunity for lay people also to give a little witness at the end of Mass sometimes. Just talk about what the faith means to them, you see. Those kinds of things can really help us. And that personal witness that you're talking about is very powerful. So, Emily, thank you. Pardon me, I'm sorry.
Kind of building off of that, I would say one thing important for me and other, young people in the faith community, something that kind of brings us closer is volunteering. And not necessarily just at the church, but in the community as a whole, and to see how what we learn about in church is brought into the community and how we are acting as God's stewards in the community has been something helpful to bring people back to church as well.
So that opportunity, pardon me, to be able to serve is important, and some people may get a little bent out of shape. I was at a church where we had a special needs fellow who was living in a group home, and he wanted to be an usher. So we brought him as an usher, but he wasn't real good with the basket, okay? He never hit anybody, but he got close sometimes, okay? But he would love it because he would walk up with them, he'd genuflect, and then with the thing, he'd turn around. He just loved to see the people, you see. And then he would bring his basket going. Well, it saddens me, but I had one of the ushers told me, said, Father, we really don't need his help, you know. I'm like, yeah, we do. You see. So we need to take a look at even the things that we're doing, and this is an opportunity to say, who could take my place? Who could I train? Who would like to do this? It may be if I walk with them. There's a lot of young people that would be happy to be ushers, but they don't want to do it alone. But if we walk with them a little bit, or we show them, get a couple of them together and walk with them, they will. You know, I was just at a place where they had young lectors. Well, they had a woman who walked up with them, held the microphone for them, you see, and was with them. It wasn't so scary when somebody's next to them, you see. So there's things we can do that way. That's opportunities, service opportunities, not just here, but outside as well, too. And I would, again, part of what we want to do is we want people to see that the church is out in the communities, that we do things. We have St. John the Evangelist Shelter or other things right nearby. So.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Patty Cole. I go here to Resurrection. And an opportunity we could develop is that new fire pit. They just created a fire pit. We could have music out there. We could have talks. We could have questions and answer sessions. And in these informal settings, we could build fellowship and include all generations, young and old.
It's great. No, nothing like that. You know that there's something about a fire. People have fake ones on their TV screens now, too, you know, because there's something about that helps people share with one another.
I would like to suggest or encourage our new pastor to have a sense of balance. Yes, there's a lot of bad things going on in the Catholic Church, and yes, there's a lot of things that we have to do, and yes, we're sinners and we could be better. But I would like to be uplifted at Mass, and I would like to go home sometimes smiling and not thinking I'm a bad person or we're a bad people as Catholics. So I would encourage the new pastor to be our cheerleader too.
Yeah. As much as some of you may want to hear this, unfortunately in practice it doesn't seem to work with this next younger generation. And that is, Father, if you just told everybody it's a mortal sin if you don't come on Sundays, right, then people would get the point, you see. All right, you and I may know that, we were raised with that, but it's not a great selling point. It's not. And when you say that typically from the pulpit, the people you're talking to are people who are trying to come there on Sundays. So you're talking to the wrong people, and your message in most cases is not what is going to sell. Now again, I'm not denying that, okay? That's part, we have an obligation, and that's what the other denominations respect about us, is that your Catholics really, especially the people who are committed like yourselves, they're there every Sunday. Oh, I wish we had people who would come like that, you see? A lot of denominations are counting, they do the same homily even a second week because they know people are coming typically twice a month. That's what the modern trend is, you see? So we need to be careful that we can't water down what we have, and at the same time, we want to be able to attract and get people into the habit. My same brother who I love, he would be the first one to tell you that we're not always good at getting there every Sunday, you know? We're just out of the habit, you see? And he's trying to get there, see? So can we work with people like that?
I think we as a parish also have a challenge of treating our new pastor maybe better than we treated the last one. Because I don't think there's any secret that Father Tim got all sorts of grief about where he stood when he was doing the sermon, about the length of his sermons. And I think, you know, that kind of falls back on all of us as we did not necessarily treat him well.
So I appreciate you not being afraid to say that. I don't know that, okay? That's not something that he told me directly either that led him to make his decision. But there is an opportunity there to give feedback, as I was saying, but to do that with love. You know, so for example, you know, this is where I'm in the middle of 6 children, so I've learned how to do these things diplomatically. Dad, are you going to talk for like 20 minutes again? okay? So I can ask the question without making the assumption that you're talking too long, right? So we want to find a way to nicely ask those kind of questions, okay?
I've heard nothing but positive, nice, good things tonight, and that's wonderful. But I ask in our heart, when we have clergy, do we say that thing to them? Do we encourage the clergy? Do we encourage the people that lead us? Do we give compliments? Do we give them feedback? That is what we all need. And we gather here tonight, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful. But do we do that when we daily come to Mass? Do we do that when a liturgy touches us? When we're led in a certain way? Do we leave here with a doggy bag to think about, but do we share it with the person that gave it to us? That is what we've got to do.
So that's that opportunity that we were talking about, okay, to be able to give feedback in a good and healthy way to create a relationship. Yep.
So there's been a lot of talk about trying to get younger people more involved, and I think we have an opportunity just to find ways to make sure they are aware of all the ways to be involved.
Yes. Okay. So an opportunity, it's a promotional thing, and many times too, and a way of communicating to let them know that too. Thank you.
Father Ferris, I think you'd be a beautiful fit for this parish.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I would love to be here, right? And I will tell you one of the things that, and you're going to give me a chance to say something, and that is one of the things that bothers me is occasionally I'll have a priest that say, "You want me to go there? Like, you want to go there?" I'm like, "Look, dude, we're here to be with people. Just love your people." And I can tell you, in my time here, that whenever I was assigned a priest and have had to talk to priests with the bishop's assignment, whenever they've had that, they come back after 6 months and say, "Wow, these people are good people," you see. And that's just the bottom line. There's good people everywhere, and we want people to do that. And my goal is to try to get our priests in that place where they can just be with their people, you see. So, but thank you for saying that, though. I appreciate that. Makes me feel good. Thank you.
I was just going to say, we joined a few years ago already, and it would be nice when you're joining a parish as someone new for people other than the staff to reach out and say, "Hi, how are you? Where are you from?" Just try to get to know somebody new.
So, great opportunity again when you see somebody that's new. We can just ask that question. It's not impolite. We all know it's kind of a pickup line. Okay, I want to talk to you. Are you new here? And fine. They may say no and walk away. Okay, we're not hurt by that, but we want that. And again, opportunity is some parishes ask for volunteers among their parishioners who would like to be part of the welcoming committee, and so they make a point of then showing them around even. So they're not staff, but they show them from the perspective of being a parishioner. So there's an opportunity. Yep. What else? Oh, thank you.
A friend of mine who became a priest many years ago, and we were chatting way back, and he said, priests are people, and they come with different gifts. And some are great in nursing homes, some are great with the dying, some are great with children, some are great, preaching. And I think this parish is looking for the next Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, and we may not get that. So I hope as a parish we give the priests a chance and leverage their strengths where they have them, and work with them where they don't, because we all have our strengths and weaknesses too.
Right. So, and it's a good point. Sometimes we as priests talk about that, and it's like, I'm not going to go to that parish because so-and-so was the priest there before me, and how am I going to look? I'm going to look bad compared to that guy, okay? Or the reverse, like, oh, I'll go there because, if I walk across the parking lot, they'll love me, So there is that little bit of expectations, and I think that's important, that we all have our limitations and defects, and so can we kind of work and live with that?
I just want to second that. I think that is so important,
when we do get our new priest, to remember that he's just a human being, and we have to give him a chance. And also, this woman that was saying about tell them when they do something right, or when they give a wonderful homily. Let them know about that. Getting back to the gentleman that was talking about explaining the Mass a little better, I thought Father Tim did a wonderful job on that. And it wouldn't be bad maybe to do that once in a while.
Sure.
Maybe once a year or something.
Yep. And again, I'm going to throw it back at you as lay people. Don't be afraid to give a little witness to why you like to come to Mass. That could be a little two-minute ending at church too as well in the final announcement, okay? Because some people, it helps us to hear how other people look at that Mass. For example, I heard Martin Sheen say this, many of you know him, the actor, right? He goes to daily Mass, and he was asked, oh, how do you pray when you go to daily Mass? He says, I look around, and I see good people, he says, and then I say to our Lord, I just want to be one of your people. Isn't that a beautiful prayer? Gosh, what a good prayer. Say, I'm sorry, it always touches me, say. But when somebody gives a witness like that, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so simple. I can do that, you know? So, other opportunities? Yeah. That's okay. Say as best you can.
I'm kind of the newbie on the parish council, and even myself, I volunteered for this position. Sometimes I'm kind of confused at what our goal is as a parish council, because this church is full of longevity with intelligent people in positions that maybe when the pastor came in too, he wasn't really sure who to go to for answers. I mean, our building office manager was suffering cancer, and I mean, he just had a lot of transitions other than church duties. So, I mean, sometimes I wonder, is it the financial council making decisions? Is it us? Is it the office staff? I mean, is it the subcommittees? I'm confused, and I'm a council member.
Yeah.
So he must be.
Yeah. So here's an opportunity maybe to be able to help the next pastor and be able to kind of work with these and navigate these committees and other things that happen so that he's able to hear a clear voice. And if you're in a position of leadership, that's great too. I'd also encourage you, those who are in those kind of positions, to also, the diocese offers different kinds of things, but some activities for you to be able to learn and navigate your role too as well. So, what else? Any other things? We're at about an hour. Okay.
What's the authority for the new priest of the parish? How much authority does he have? Where does he have to stop, and where does he have to go?
So the question was, what is the authority of the new pastor? Where does he have to stop? Where does he have to go? So, fair question. So pastors are actually given a lot of leeway. When it comes to staffing, for example, what they need to do is make sure that they follow the diocesan guidelines for doing that. If someone is not keeping up in their position, they need to give them a performance improvement plan. But then they have a right to ask someone to leave or to move along, terminate, whatever word you want to use there. So they have a right to do that. And frankly, this is a discussion oftentimes I get involved in because, well, I got let go. Did they follow the procedures? Yes, they did. In many cases, unfortunately, they just haven't done it in as charitable a way as perhaps as they could have. But ultimately, the pastor is the head of this place, and we're not here to second guess them at the diocese, okay? As long as they've followed some of the general procedures they need to, they do have a right. If they want to change the organization, the staffing, and I know this makes staff people a little anxious at times, but they can do that. Ideally, you want to do that with the finance and pastoral council, talk about what you're trying to do with restructuring and things like that, and then they should be able to go ahead and forward that way too as well. Does that answer your question? Okay, all right. Yes.
As the transition is evolving here, Have you become aware of any episodes, any group of people, anything that would have made Father Tim not comfortable in this area? Just for example, on 2 occasions at other events that I was at, a topic came up of moving the statue of Mary. And now if they took out the big stained glass window there, I think that'd be something worthy about talking about. But to move the statue 20 feet and to have people get concerned about that didn't make any sense to me.
So there's an opportunity, right? I'm not aware of those things, and because I have talked with the staff just once. Okay, when the new person comes on, that'll be something that I think you might want to share in different ways with them. We're going to have this in the notes, obviously, but that perhaps there were some flashpoints, if you want to call it that. So that's where we want to work through. But I can tell you, at least because I do feel like you're asking me directly, is that the kind of thing that Father Tim got fed up with? No, I don't. That's not the sense I have. He's, that wasn't something that he's going to. That's not the hill he's going to die on, I guess, if you want to use that term. Okay, but fair question, and I hope we have it noted. Okay. Yes. Hold on, I'm going to go back there. I'll be right back.
One of the opportunities that I'd like the new pastor to take is to be able to explain some of the changes that are going on, not just in our own regional area, but the Pope and some of the decisions that he's been making. And I can read a lot in the newspaper, but it would be really wonderful to get some decent explanations from somebody at hand.
Mm-hmm. So it's a great opportunity that when something happens, to not be afraid to ask the pastor, hey, could you give us some commentary on what we've heard, some news out of Rome or things like that? Or also help us have good sources for what's happening, places where we can hear about what's happening so we understand, right? Because whether we like it or not, some people seem to take a position on this Pope, and they're either for or against him and different things. And ideally, as Catholics, we're trying to understand the guy. We're not trying to take a position one way or the other, really. Does that get to your point? Okay.
Whose decision is it that the tabernacle is in there and can't come out here?
So, yes. So, he's not afraid to stir it up, is he? That's good. And that's okay. I'm not trying to avoid these things, okay? So a decision on moving the tabernacle, for example, and I will tell you, and I'm going to mention one other thing since you brought this up, okay, that the bishop prefers that the tabernacle be in the center of the church, okay? So if the pastor wants to do that, he would work with his pastoral council, right, as well as with the diocese, because any kind of move, the bishop wants to know about it. But that's his prerogative, and the bishop would have to sign off on that. But in this case, I can tell you, he probably would prefer it there, the bishop, yes.
He came out several years ago and said, do it, but we never did it.
Okay, so I'm not aware. He said that, Bishop actually said that when he was here. I'm not aware of that, but I will pass that along if that, we can put that in the notes, and the bishop can be asked about that, okay? So, all right. I'm going to add one more thing, and I'm sorry we're stirring up a little bit as we're trying to wind down, but I'm going to add one more thing. Generations of Faith, for example, and I will say this to is a wonderful program. It's not meant to be a standalone program. The bishop has asked that Generations of Faith be always used with a regular catechetical program, so that there should be classes, and that's something that we will ask, okay? So, and I'm sorry to bring that up so abruptly in such a public way, but since you pointed this out, I wanted to get this out at some point during the night too as well. So again, we're not saying there's anything wrong with Generations of Faith, it's just not enough. Once a month is not enough, unfortunately, and we need to have some other regular teaching, and that's what Bishop asks. So now I know I'm stirring it up a little bit, but Generations of Faith is the RE program where they get together once a month okay, to be able to teach parents, and then the parents ideally are teaching their students, okay? So, generations of disciples, okay? So, all right? So, but the bishop has been clear about this, so I'm not hiding anything from the fact that he has asked that it should not be just that there should be regular classrooms teaching at least 30 hours of that in a given year with teachers, catechists. So, yes.
This is an observation. I suspect if we stayed here another hour, you would even more sense that there are some folks with some opinions in this parish.
Yes, we all have.
A lot of intelligence, a lot of highly skilled, bright people, and a lot of people with opinions. And I think that can be a tough environment. Having said that, for about 7 or 8 years, most of us were, I would think, spoiled by the Bishop Robert Morneau approach to giving a sermon. 7 minutes, 3 bullet points, clear as a bell, outstanding message, and you could almost, it was impossible not to listen. Father Tim was a little longer, and I think that, you know, as the lady over there pointed out, I'm sure that word got back, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think as you interact with the person coming in, it's probably fair for that person to understand what we had. We had polar opposites in terms of style and length, and that's, to me, that's an issue.
Okay. And I appreciate you putting it on the table, and that is an opportunity. Our bishop has said that the ideal homily, which is what our pope has said too, is 8 to 10 minutes. Okay? That's the ideal. Now, what is said is that if someone wants to go longer, there should be some kind of basis for that, but that's the ideal. Okay? So, yep.
To follow up with that, I mean, I've been here for about 25 years with my wife. I like Bishop Bob's style.
Mm-hmm.
I like Father Tim's style. Yes, his may have been longer, but if he preached with such passion and caring, I was fine listening to it. I've been to other parishes where they talk a long time, but they just keep regurgitating and hit it from 6 different angles. Well, then you're losing me. And Father Tim would do that once in a while, but overall, I was fine with it. I didn't have a problem.
Okay. So, again, opportunities here. All right.
I think we also have to think as a parish that it would have been very difficult for any person to follow Bishop Bob. And I think the fact that Father Tim was willing to accept that challenge is a gift to us in itself. And I really think that should be respected.
If you don't mind, I will mention that to him and the applause, okay? Specifically about that, because I said that indirectly. I didn't say it so directly if you heard me tonight, okay? And that is that it's hard to follow a really good act, you know? And so that's hard. And one of the things that Father Tim felt good about, if you noticed in what he said to you, and I think there is something to this, and that is that perhaps he served a purpose as a transition to be the one who had to come in afterwards and try to take up the mantle and find there was a certain amount of perhaps hesitancy or difficulties with that. But if that was his role was, he's okay with that. That maybe that's, and there is a tradition of this too, that sometimes more the Protestant churches will have an interim pastor for 6 months. It kind of gets everybody to forget the last one and start looking forward to who the next one is. And frankly, that's part of what Father Jim's doing for us here too as well, to kind of help us with some time to move along. So, yep. I'll get back in just a second. Yep.
Just a quick opportunity suggestion.
Yep.
I'm thinking once the new priest is here, I'm sure the first 6 months he's going to be at committee meetings, one after the next. I'm proposing that, let's say next winter, he has a coffee, and it's just for non-committee people to come and give, you know, what do you like about me, you know, where can I improve type of thing. which is not subject to any given council or committee or anything else, just open forum.
So I would encourage you to host one at your house. Yep, no, really. These are great things. Whoops. These are great things. Bring people, a variety of people. We call them coffees in the education business, and it's something that a principal would do all the time, or at least would like to do if anyone would have them over. So yes, have a little coffee, invite some friends over, just talk about whatever you want.
So I have two comments, Father.
Yep.
First comment is getting back to catechesis and not watering things down.
Sure.
I know for a fact, working with you in the diocese, working in my store when I had it, children now are very hungry for the truth. They're being lied to by society all the time. So an opportunity for this parish is definitely catechesis and giving them the truth, okay? Secondly is when parishes are going through transition with pastors, usually there's a time of where they're assigned an administrator. Is that something that's going to happen here, and then eventually he will be put into be a pastor?
Right. So that's Father Jim is the temporary administrator.
Okay.
And so until July 1. Right. Just so everyone's clear on that. July 1 would be and that's a Monday, by the way, if anyone's keeping score. So that'll be the last weekend. I was about to say, usually within an hour, people will say the things that they want to say. But
this is a great opportunity to quit being so judgmental. We're here for the same reason, all of us, old, young, lots of money, no money. We're all here for the same reason, whether it's Bishop Bob up there giving his 3 points or it's Father Tim up there speaking from the heart. We're still all here for the same reason. We got to quit being so judgmental.
So, and it's tough. We have a society that's got an opinion, just like I do, on everything, okay? So this is a good place to be spiritually too, is just to say, okay, can I just be where this person is? And then can I share where I am? And so then we can meet somewhere together. Yeah. Okay? Yes, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
I think this is a great opportunity. We have this 4-ish months to kind of think and plan and prepare. We perhaps didn't have that the last time, so this is the next best time, and we can use this opportunity to really kind of think and pray and prepare for our future.
And this is exactly what I was going to ask Father Jim. I'm going to put him on the spot, but I know he's good at this. Would you like to conclude our time a little bit? Well, I'm going to stick around if there's any more comments that people have, but we're well over an hour. The last 15 minutes kind of flew by here. One more comment before we do that? Okay, hang on. And then Father Jim, I'm going to put you on the spot to do a little finishing prayer, okay? Well, that's your job. Come on. There you go. Who was it? Where was she? There she is.
Folks, there's a shortage of priests. A really shortage of priests. We are so lucky to have a priest. How would we like to be in a parish that's shared with 3 other parishes? How would we like to live in the country where we have to travel miles? We are so lucky to have a priest. I think that we ought to be on our knees and thank God. The only perfect person was Jesus. And we're all short of that. And so let's be thankful for what we've got and appreciate while we have a priest.
And there's one more opportunity to pray for priests. Pray for your next priest. Pray for perhaps somebody among you right now that will become a priest, so that we can continue to do and pass on and live our faith. I'll stick around if there are more questions, but we'll ask Father Jim to finish for us, please.
I just get to say a prayer. I just want to say I've been here a very short time, and much of what I experienced it reminds me of how wonderful it was to be here 300 years ago, whenever it was I was here. I think that there is always going to be somebody who agrees in somebody who disagrees. We can agree with enthusiasm and we can disagree with love. I just think, that we don't have to pick people apart or that, do anything. And I don't mean that that's what's going on here. I didn't hear the negative parts. If anybody had anything negative, say, but no, I don't want to start it now. But I have been impressed too by you people again and the goodness. There will always be room for improvement. There will always be room for a greater sense of the Jesus Christ who is the center of our lives. I think what we have to talk about much, much more is the Eucharist. What the Eucharist is in our lives personally. What I'd like to do as closing, before I go on for a 20-minute homily, is to use the stewardship prayer in the pew. I don't know how often we get to pray that together. So for our closing prayer, dear Heavenly Father,
my parish is composed of people like me. I will be made what it is. I will be friendly if I am. Its pews will be filled if I help fill them. It will do great work if I work. It will be prayerful if I prayer. It will be in causes if I am a generous giver. It will bring other people into its worship and fellowship if I invite the people. It will be a parish of loyalty and love, of fearlessness and faith, and a parish with a noble spirit if I, who make it what it is, am filled with these same things. Therefore, with your help, O God, I shall dedicate myself to the task of being all things that I want others to be.
I want to say a word of thanks for you people coming
Yes,
in
thank
this
you.
numbers
I agree.
this evening.
Yes.
And just let's finally make the final prayer, our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Thank you again for coming. It's good to be with you all, your wonderful faith. Appreciate it.